This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monty Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carrie Ann with CMG Financial and My Mortgage Team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at talkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions at talkmusiccity.com.
Bonnie!
Carrie Ann.
How are you?
Man, are you ready for a good time today? We've got Phillip Bachelder in the house. We've got Phillip Bachelder in the house. No, you know, we started to touch on it a few minutes ago. We didn't go down there because I don't think you believed it, but the first time he and I met, I came away crying. Crying. And I don't
like
cry.
Like a country song or what?
No, I came away crying.
No lying, but he was sure crying.
No, seriously. I mean, the guy is such an intense individual that, I mean, he spoke to my heart.
Oh, I love that. I
mean, seriously, it's not easy when you're 6'6" looking up at a 6'8" or whatever. How tall are you, man?
I mean, I think we're right there. It depends on my shoe height, right? It always goes back to basketball season. I got an extra 3 inches on these, so this season I'm 6'9", but I'm 6'7". So,
are you 6'7"? I know you're taller than I am.
Yeah.
But you're also a very successful real estate professional here, and that's why we wanted you to come on here to tell us your story. Phillip, I believe with all my heart, I'm 70 years old, I believe everybody pays a price to be who they are. I also believe, call me naive, but I believe that some of the things we go through in life aren't just because for us to enjoy or endure, but sometimes it's to help us with helping other people. I call it being somebody coming up to a bridge of determination. Can I really walk over that? Can I really walk through this? Can I really overcome this situation? And then hopefully God has prepared somebody on the other side of that situation, like you, like me, like you, Carrie Ann, that will say, "Hey, take my hand. I've been here before. I can help you across this situation." So anyway, that's why I always try to, first of all, always want to thank people for paying the price to be you. Okay, you're a cool guy. Love your energy. Connie and I first saw you on Facebook. I think it was maybe 5-6 years ago, and I'm thinking, who does this guy think he is? Because you came across with such confidence, but in a way that was really intriguing. That I think drew people into your story. So first of all, tell us who Phillip Bachelder is. Okay?
Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm 6'7" now, so that's the cat's out of the bag. But Phillip Bachelder, and first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. Sure. I really appreciate you guys. Appreciate the whole team putting this whole thing together, and you guys are incredible. But let's jump right into it. So
you're from the West Coast.
Yeah. So I'm from the Seattle area, and when I was out in the West Coast, I was basically running wide open. I mean, I was definitely not somebody seeking after good things. I was all about drugs, alcohol, just anything to alleviate my pains that I thought I had that seemed real to me. Growing up without a family, or being a latchkey kid, or not having a dad around, or all these reasons that I came up with, but really getting hooked in with the wrong crowd and having no future whatsoever. I mean, I wound up in a place where my downstairs neighbor was my crack dealer, and my apartment was in the full-on ghetto. I mean, and I was at a point where I remember I'd been up for about a week long at that point on drugs. You don't just stay up for a week without some aid. I had a little aid. I'm gonna try to make this comical for you too here, people. But anyway, so from that point, I was at the edge of my bed, and I remember I just was crying out to God, like, God, help me out of here. Like, I need a new life. I know this is not what I'm supposed to have. I'm surprised I'm still alive. I've had so many different encounters, or in prison, or both. Dead or in prison is where I belonged, Wow. So at that point, a week later, my grandma called me, and she lived in Little Gallatin, Tennessee, out there on Browns Lane. And she said, Phillip,
I know where Browns Lane is. Gallatin.
Yeah. So, she said, what do you think about moving out here? And everything in my body resonated yes. Okay, so it was like yes, and I said absolutely yes. And then I packed my bags and I left everything behind, and everybody's like, you left everything behind? And I'm like, yeah, I had a toothpaste and some toothbrushes that I left behind because I owned nothing. And no, I had a car. My mom sold that for me. But when I moved here, I hit the ground, man. I hit the ground doing the things that it took for me to get free from not drugs and alcohol are just a symptom. They were for me. That wasn't my problem. My problem was in my heart. My problem was where the darkness was and the negative thoughts that I allowed to come in and cloud my judgment and cloud my perspective and not help me see the real world that God had for me. You know what I mean? Wow. And I mean, now that I am past that point and I'm plugged in at a church, I tell everybody that God brought me here to find my church, and then everything else was a result of it. I remember I was just telling this story the other night to somebody, and I remember specifically, because when I came here, I still had troubles. I wound up in a recovery home. I mean, I literally disconnected my whole life. I had people wondering where I was. They thought I was dead because I turned off my phone. I turned off all my credit cards.
Did you have a car accident too?
Yeah, so that was what I was going to tell you the story about. So I had a car accident, but I was staying with my wife's family. Was like, where have you been? They finally tracked me down in this recovery home, right? Because nobody knew where I was, and they tracked me down. They said, just come stay with us, you know? And I'm like, okay, that's better than living in a room with 6 guys that literally chain smoke cigarettes 24 hours a day. So I was like, okay, I could try that, you know? So I went and stayed with her, and I was still not in a place where I was at a place where I was just ready to keep going. So I remember going out one night, and I went down to the Blue Moon Bar out there in Lebanon, Tennessee. Let me tell you, Blue Moon, that's about the only bar they got down there, but you go visit Blue Moon, you be happy. Okay, right. So anyway, I went to Blue Moon, and I remember I had plenty of drinks, and I was getting ready to head home, and it had just rained, okay? And I was coming around, it was a back road back there, can't remember, Horn Springs or something like that. Anyway, came around this bend, and it was literally, you know, an elbow turn. And the elbow goes down into a creek. And so I was going 45 around a 10. And my car literally just like, guess what? Momentum, you're off the road. I literally just went sideways off the road. There was not like anything to stop it. So now I'm down in this ditch. And there's water pouring into my car, and it's soaking my feet. I mean, I literally opened the door. I put my foot in the ground, like that's gonna help, right? Like I'm He-Man, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna push this car back and forward. So I'm reverse forward, reverse forward, reverse forward. I finally got my car turned where I was going underneath this tiny little bridge. Turns out I wound up, years later, I sold the house right there on the corner right there. And the guy remembered somebody driving through the creek, and I was like, that was me. So anyway, I wound up getting my car turned, and now I'm driving through a creek, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I gotta get out of this creek. So I jerked the wheel to the left. Now I'm driving through people's yards. What am I gonna do? Crank the wheel again to the left, and then boom, I just pop out onto the road. I'm like a block away from the house. I made it to the house. I went inside, went to sleep, came out the next day. My car looked like the Jolly Green Giant had stuck a stick in my exhaust and swizzled it through the mud, and looked like a giant snowball fight of grass and mud on my car. And if you know me at all, you know that I like my car clean. Yeah. It needs to be clean.
It's the shiniest one out here.
It is, yeah, it is probably. Anyway, so I went out there the next day, and I put my hand on top of my car, and it was like God spoke to me right inside. I heard it clear as day. And it was, son, you don't have many chances left. And he wasn't saying like, I'm going to kill you, because that's not God, you know, to me. And you know that God, I don't know him, but he was like saying, listen, your choices are leading you to a place where I can't continue to protect you from your choices. Wow. And so that was like this gigantic realism for me. And I tell you what, from that moment forward, I got plugged in at my church. I started faithfully serving. I left everything else that I knew. I literally totally surrendered at that point. Went and washed my car, by the way. It was real clean. Scratches on top, wound up selling the car later. But anyway, I got plugged into my church. 7 months later, I'm married. Now it's 16 years later to the day. I am married. I'm free from all of that. I have 2 beautiful girls, 5 and 7, and we've got another baby on the way in July. Oh. And, you know, God has been so good to me, but it has not been easy too. And I think one of the key things there for people to realize when they hear this 16-year gap, let me tell you something very clearly, okay? That gap was full of pain for me. It was full of growth moments. It was full of the moments where I worked a W-2 job where the boss came in and checked my temperature by kissing my forehead. Moments like that, where you're just dealing with these hard things in life and how you handle it at that moment. It's dealing with the moments in life where I really like this pin from work. I want to take it home. But character and integrity in your heart says, that's not your pin. Or you take the stapler and you bring it back. Little things like that. Like, so it was this growing season. And I think for me, it was God keeping me in the dark, doing work on my heart, where I had all these skills. I had this ability to communicate. I could do exponentially more than I think than, everybody just has a different skill set, different gifting, but I had to be polished, and I felt like for a long time I was wondering, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, here I am, I'm working at a bank or I'm working at Publix, not to knock any of that. Yeah. But I just knew that God had more for me. There was more potential there. And I've always been told my whole life, and this is actually one of my least favorite sayings that anyone can ever say to me, because it drives me to want to show them that the opposite is true. And when they say, you have so much potential, I hate that saying. Yeah, yeah. You know why? Because I want to live out my potential. Yeah. I want people to see my potential. I want people to understand, hey, he had potential, but he acted and made choices in such a way that allowed him to access his potential. Right. So for me, that was a huge key in learning that, yes, you have potential, but how do I access it? It's like equity in a house, right? I've got all this equity in my home. How do I access it? Well, for me, it was letting go and letting my house get cleaned up by the only one that I knew who could do it best. And that was Jesus for me, So, a lot of people hear the story and it's like, my pastor says all the time, everybody wants a mega church, but nobody saw me 35 years ago taking out the trash and mowing the yard for free. Right. And that was my life. I mean, for a long time. And now I've got 10 rental properties. I've got 4 listings on the ground right now. I've got other buyers. I've got more clients, that I know what to do with, that are wanting to relocate here, especially for this kind of market. As you know, it's crazy. It's a crazy situation, and we're still navigating it. And it's not all smooth sailing, but all of those times of difficulty where I had to be in those positions that I didn't want to be in, they prepared me for times like this, where now I'm ready to deal with the hard stuff, because I think what happens so many times is they think, I want to get into real estate. Yeah, I'm going to get into real estate. It's going to be great. Yeah. And then the minute they face something really hard, because you face something in real estate, it can be really hard, right? Because now you're dealing with a massive asset. Right. You're not just dealing with pushing a broom around anymore.
Huge emotions.
Right.
Yeah. So huge emotions. So I was able to, I'm able to just kind of work through that a lot better. And I feel like it's been something that's just been, just being able to work through that has helped me a lot.
So how long have you been licensed?
So I've been licensed now 7 years.
7 years. Okay.
Yeah. And when I first got started, I had a buddy in the business, and he was at the point where he just sold a company. And so he was at the point where he wanted to be an investor, and he was buying and selling, and I was just scrapping. I'll tell you, and here's another thing, like if realtors are listening to this and you're just starting out. Oh, good. If you wait, okay, the ones that are listening to this, you need to realize that you need to do what you need to do for you to be successful. And what does that mean? Like for me, when I first started out, I was literally calling every single house and every opportunity that I had, and I was offering them a 0.25 commission. Now, do I do that anymore? Absolutely not. Why? Because I bring value. Why? Because I know the market. Why? Because I have 4 listings on the ground. Nobody else does. And I'm actually hearing the feedback. I'm able to work through it. We're able to work through those things. I got money on my side now. I've got resources. Why would I just give it away? But I'm telling you, in the beginning, it is not easy, and you have to say, it's not going to just be overnight. It's going to be over time. And the ones that make it through the seasons like this, I have seen it time and time again, where they make it through these next 2-3 years of trial and some tough stuff, and you're going to flourish. You're going to bloom. Your business is going to just take off, because people are like, he's still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's still around.
He's serious about it. It's not a part-time deal.
It wasn't like he just skipped out on me, when things got hard. So,
and the difficulties aren't moving the needle for you, meaning you aren't even questioning. You'll see all these faces out there of other real estate agents, nervous, concerned, and you're like, what's going on? Right? This is just, I'm just doing what I do. Right. I'm doing me, right? Type
Absolutely.
of thing, which is a huge win. And I love that, because so many people that I know are going through some difficult times.
Right.
And, when we live through those, it just makes us stronger, and it is so true. And it allows us truly to understand about being the tortoise and not the hare. This is the long game, right? Yeah. Totally the long game.
Absolutely.
And those that are getting in the business just because they think they can make something fast or they can do this really quickly, there's a reason why many of us took the time, to get to the other side. You chase, and then you are chased, right? Yeah. You are having the people come to you,
right?
Versus versus you having to run out and try to, capture all those folks. So amazing. So what was the time frame? Your buddy was in the industry. Is that how you just thought of real estate?
No. So yeah, I was a teacher at the time, and I was teaching 4th grade, and I kind of felt like by my second year,
it was a teacher as well.
Yeah, I was a teacher. So I actually graduated from MTSU with a teaching degree.
Okay.
And so I graduated at 30 with a teaching degree. Went back, I was like, oh, I'm going to get my degree. Mama gonna be proud. She's like, you gonna be a what? I'm just kidding. I'm a teacher, right? Like, so anyway, I went and got my degree, and then by the second year of teaching it just felt like it said rest in peace over my door, because I didn't want to go get a doctorate to be a principal to make a little bit more. I mean, it's more money, but still, it wasn't what I wanted. And so I was just like, I was talking to my buddy, because he's just a good friend, and he's just like, well, what do you think about just trying real estate out, and trying it out? So we had 11 snow days in a row. It was one of those years where we had one of those ice storms, and for those 11 days straight, studied, got everything done.
Oh, cool.
So I literally was looking at the snow, not going out. I didn't have any kids at the time, so it was like, okay, we'll focus on this. Got it done, took my test, and then I had to keep it a secret for a while, right? Because here was my plan: is I worked all year, dadgummit. I'm going to get paid for my summer. Right. You're going to pay me for the summer while I'm growing my business, Right. So I kept it on the down low, and then I just hit the ground running like you wouldn't believe. And I was so fortunate to have my buddy at the time, because, it's just one of those things where, what you said is so important, Carrie, and it led me to the idea of these younger people. It's about mentorship. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about Realty One, is that I know Monty's heart for mentorship and people. He's a people person. He loves people. He wants to see people grow. Carrie wants that as well, or she wouldn't be here doing podcasts. Okay, we all have businesses. We want to do that, but our genuine. And if you want to say, "Oh, wow, that's not genuine," whatever. You're just saying that to get. If that's your heart, then please don't ever call me. Okay, yeah. So, but they're genuine people who want to make a difference in people's lives, and that is one of the true blessings that I had from the very beginning. Was I had mentors, and you know what though? They didn't come up to me and say, "Can I be your mentor?"
Right.
Nobody ever did that.
Right.
You know what I had to do? I had to go up to them and bug them and ask them and say, "Hey, would you mind?" Yeah, right. Let's go to lunch. Let's do something. And so from then on, I'll tell you, one of my best buddies from church. His name's Dustin Plummer, and he wouldn't. Well, yeah, anyway, I said it now. So his name's Dustin Plummer, and he is an investor, and you just would never know it about him.
Sure.
But he's one of those guys who just makes a difference in other people's lives with what God's blessed him with. Wow. And now I'm on that track too of being an investor. Mm-hmm. And my goal is just work myself out of a job. Mm-hmm. Because reality is my goal was 20 homes personally to own this year in investing. I'll probably make 10. I'll probably make 10 that I acquired this year so half of that's okay. Wow. But by the time I'm 45, I want to be able to hang up my real estate coat if I want to. But you also know, Monty, I'm not afraid to look somebody in the eye right now. It's got a $1.5 million home and say, "Oh, you're fired." Because the reality is
I got to see him do that.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah.
I think when you're strong within who you are, you can do that. You know, I think we got to a place, and I love Monty's heart as well. We know confidently that tomorrow we can still make it. We can still make it, right?
Right.
And you're solid in who you are, and all the goodness that you'll bring, and God will bless you with something tomorrow for sure.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, I think we're going to go through some interesting times. But the idea of, if somebody is truly stealing your peace or your joy, then you really have to, and that's the conversation you and I had.
Right.
Because it goes against everything. You work so hard to get that $1.5 million listing opportunity, and then the person starts showing their true selves, and it's like, it's not going to get any better than this.
No.
The pressure really hasn't started yet, And if they're already trying to take the steering wheel away and drive the bus on their own, that's why we have a motto here in the organization that we're always looking for MQCA in our clients. Motivated, because if they're not motivated, it's like pushing a string up the hill. But if they're not qualified, of course, it's just a lot of chaos. And that C stands for coachable. If they're not coachable, then again, the 3-year-old's driving the bus, and it's going to be a mess. And of course, we all like the letter A. Blake Johnson, my right-hand guy, we were on the phone this morning, and he gave up so much this recent weekend to put a deal together. When I say gave up a lot of time, energy, some percentages, and all this stuff. He had both sides of the deal, and then the people had the nerve, and gave up a lot, okay? Mm-hmm. And then the people came back today and said, well, I think you should have to pay for that cleaning bill of $120. It wasn't the $120. Mm-hmm. It taps into me of a lack of respect and appreciation. And so that's my Achilles heel. But anyhow, going back to MQCA, motivated, qualified, coachable, and appreciative. As a real estate professional, I challenge you to always have that kind of mindset that's who you're attracting into your life. When somebody says, how's it going? I'm attracting into my world motivated, qualified, coachable, and appreciative buyers and sellers. And I always say now real estate professionals as well in that. But I think we have to set the stage of who we're attracting in our life, But
also I think being true to who you are.
Right.
I already know when I walked in what I was getting.
Yeah.
I know all you, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy. You're just going to tell us how it's going to be. There's no filter. That's huge, right? And you're going to attract people that like you, trust you, want to be hanging out with that. So for the real estate agents out there too, some of them tried to be something, and I did that a long time ago. I tried to be something. I wore these tweed suit coats, jackets, skirts, all bad. Yeah, none of that. Just be you, right? If you're loud and fun and you want to wear bright colors and I want to dye my hair all the things, do it. Do you for you, you know, because you will be more confident and you will continue to grow the right way, and you'll find your people. You'll totally find your people, and then you'll be like, oh, you're not my people,
exactly,
and we're gonna go left.
I think that's what he did with that.
Exactly.
You're not my people. I'm sorry, you're not worth. We got to remember we have certain number of seats on the bus that we're driving. If you've read the Energy Bus. And if somebody's taken that seat that isn't qualified to be sitting in there in your bus, we got to have a heart-to-heart.
That's right.
Either going to step up and become qualified, or sorry, we have to let you off at the next corner.
But I do think when you and I started out, and I do think that it is important that we welcome all personalities.
True.
Right? Because it makes us stronger to handle and how you navigate through personality A, personality B.
Exactly.
If you just close off right at the beginning, all of them, I don't know if your business does flourish as much, right? And so I do think, there are going to be some folks, when getting a mortgage, there's a lot of passion and emotion, and sometimes the more emotional folks are the ones that I could, without even knowing, I can tell you the rest of their story.
Right.
And normally it's a credit related thing or this related thing, or, they're too busy, and so it is important to kind of understand all personalities, because you're better at handling those, and not to say so-called handling, but thinking 2 steps ahead and knowing that that's a data person, or that's a person that needs a little love and, tender love and care, all the things, and then when you get to a place where, that transaction doesn't mean as much, you can make the decision, that you totally, I don't need to deal with that.
And I think that like resonates with me really, really like a ton, because when, as a salesperson and a sales professional, you learn to pick up on stuff like that. And the fact that you just said that you could tell what the issue probably is based off of emotion. It tells you how strong emotion is in our industry and just in the world in general right now. And I think one of the biggest things that people are gonna the people that are gonna be most successful is the ones that make choices based off of wisdom and good decisions and mentorship, instead of how you wake up and feel every day. You wake up and make decisions on how you feel. I'll see you a month from now in prison. I mean, it's just one of those things where you've got to make your decisions based off of your goals, off of where you want to be, who you want to be. And I spent a lot of time in the dark learning that. So I recommend, if you can.
There's no question in your mind, in other words.
No question in my mind. If I let my emotions run my life when I wake up based on how I feel, and there's a little devil sitting in the corner of my bed, oh, you got these listings and no one's going to see them, what are you going to do? And I'm just like, well, I could sit there and I could get freaked out or bothered or whatever, or I can get up and do my routine, do the things that I know that have gotten me to where I have these listings, and continue to make those decisions, because those are the ones that brought me success.
Right.
Not that emotion.
Right. So true.
So Phillip, I see you as a mentor to newer agents. What would you tell somebody who's starting out right now? Because there's still people getting their license, still people stepping into this interesting world that we have right now. So what are you going to tell them? What's going to how are you going to direct them if you're a mentor? Because I think you are a mentor, whether you are actually mentoring anybody or not. People are always watching you because they're attracted. You're attracted to the energy.
Yeah. So for me, I think the first thing I would do is just get a sense for them. Because you can tell a lot just by letting them talk, right? Like, and then I think I would find their passion point or their pain point. Because if I can find one of those two things, then I can generally help somebody and direct them in a path. Because I know you're hurting, you're making decisions based off this, or again, emotion, right? Or making decisions based off of passion. I'm a very passionate person. Okay. So I can totally relate to that. But I also can empathize with people that are going through those pain points. So I would find that. And then the second thing I would do is tell them to go to Realty One and talk to you. Okay. And then the third thing that I would do is I would say, listen, you have got to find a way where you can get in front of enough people to where you can get a yes.
Power of numbers.
Your first yes is huge. And until you get that, you're going to feel like a floundering failure. And even after you get it, there's still going to be times where you hear that little chirping in your ear. But what I do is not going to fit everybody else. A lot of people aren't going to want to make a YouTube channel. Living in Nashville with Phillip Bachelder YouTube channel. Look it up. Phillip Bachelder Realtor Instagram. But okay, so the reality is not what's now? So not everybody's going to do that though, but not everybody should. But they have to do something.
I know. Yeah.
You have to pick up a phone.
I think more and more people have to embrace that idea though. I really do.
Yeah.
We live in a world who would rather not read and they want to be watching something. And I think the more real you are, the more followers you're going to get.
But do something.
Yeah.
Do something.
Do something that resonates
But get a mentor first is what I would say. I'd say get a mentor and then just let them guide you into paths of success. And if you need, I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah. And we need to remind ourselves that no one's coming to us. Like, I can't sit back and wait for anybody to come to me. A lot of people ask, how did you move the needle in your business? Because I went to y'all.
Yeah.
I created a place where you could come to me, right?
Yeah.
I made that environment. I would think as a real estate agent, you need to find your place. I just did this speaking event with a bunch of loan officers in different states. And they said, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do this. And that's your choice. That we have choices in our life. However, what got us here won't get us there. And if you're brand new into the business and you're somebody that came from industry A and now you're in this industry, you definitely have to step out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And if this is the year that we're so-called normalizing the world, this is the year to jump out, do things that are awkward, uncomfortable. Because guess what? The worst thing anybody could ever say is no, or, whatever. And that was terrible. Yeah, it was, Lord. But I did it once, and now I'm going to do it twice, and I'm going to get better and better and better. And that's going to make you more successful. Do not care what other people think of you. You don't.
No, I don't care. And I think one of the things too that goes, like just saying I always heard was you can't steer a parked car.
So true.
So if you're like literally just sitting there, guess what? Your car's not moving. You can't steer it, right? And the other one is, if it's been a long time since you've done something for the first time, then it's about time.
Oh, I love
that. Woo. On that first one,
that's a good
lot
one.
of people think motivation creates action, but it's really action that creates the motivation. You've got to be in motion.
Yep.
I love that part as well.
My girlfriend said something about, the squirrel, that's crossing the interstate. I'm going to get this all wrong, but again,
wasn't a chicken? Was it a squirrel?
I don't know. One of the animals. I think it's
the road, dang it.
Whatever is dead. The reason is because they stopped. They're squished. The animal squished on the ground. There's some saying.
Well, this is a sad podcast.
I have a raccoon story. If you
but
want me to
make a decision. Go left, go right.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there, and not do anything. Right? Because you will get squashed. Meaning the market will squash you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it will.
This is totally the time to look for one. Don't look for 10. Look for one. Then look for 2. Then now acquire 4, and it's going to slowly start to move. And you're going to find your groove. You're going to find your lane where you're super comfortable.
Yeah.
And it may be a YouTube video.
It may be.
It may not be. But you know what? We have another RG agent that stepped out of her comfort zone. Doris Berry, super proud of her.
I was so proud of her.
She did something that was super uncomfortable, but she knew what she did. She teamed up with someone that was a little more comfortable in that arena, which was me, and that was great.
Smart.
It's so smart on her part.
Yeah.
And now she has content to be able to push out there to continue to move her in the right direction. That's what you do, right? You step out of your comfort zone. Love that.
Phillip, the other day you reached out to me and said, hey, I need a new book to read. What do you recommend? I love that about you, man, because you recognize, I think the battleground is here, and we've got to keep that fresh. They've got to keep that alive. We've got to keep a winner's mentality and so forth. Being an athlete, I'm sure that's really helpful.
Right.
you chose, then you came back and said you'd embraced John Maxwell's leadership book, I think, or something.
Right. Yeah.
One of those books.
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, in addition to reading, how do you win the battle between your ears? Because I think that's the battle that is the most critical one. I know Carrie Ann's a voracious reader. I'm a voracious reader. I try to bring ideas to our team of hey, this is a great book. You need to embrace it. How else do you win that battle?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but getting around other people that have winners' mindsets.
Love that.
Listen, I'm around two people that are voracious readers. I think I'm in a good room of success. You know, I mean, I forget the stat, but I read it. People who read one book a year, even, I think it was astronomical, the level of success compared to somebody who never reads.
Right.
And that's just one book. We're not talking about somebody who reads 20, 30, 40, 50 books a year, you know? So anyway, for me, I think that's key, because for me, when I'm not around people, I turn inward, and inward's not good for me. Right. And so I'm an extroverted introvert. Like, I do need my downtime, but at the same time,
An extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
I've not heard that before.
I'm one of those too.
Yeah, my grandpa coined the term because he actually graduated. He went back, got his psychology degree, and he didn't graduate with his degree because a professor pissed him off. But anyway, that was a whole other story. My grandpa was an honorary man. So anyway, but he loved running tests on me. I was a good one to run tests on as a kid. And so that's when I discovered I was an extroverted introvert. But
Extroverted introvert.
yeah, so I like my time to myself, but I also really, it's not an option for me. I have to be around people at some point.
I think we flourish too around people, you know, and it brings the goodness out of us.
It does.
I think that's a huge win. But yeah, I think, you know, studying, the other thing too, not just reading, but put yourself at the table where you are the lowest ranked always. And that was huge for me, to humble yourself, or you're kind of scared and you're super uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Because all these people do, you know, more, or they do it different and they do it their way. You can learn so much, you know, so much. And that's something too, that if I was new, I would try to, you know, do that as well. Get to that table.
Amen to that. I know this is probably sounds corny, especially a lady in the room, but I'll never forget the first time that I met somebody. I was in a meeting, a real estate top producer meeting in Chicago, I think it was. At the time, I was doing 100 units a year, and to me, that was a lot of business. Okay. And I couldn't imagine exceeding that. And in that meeting, the speaker called out a gentleman who was doing 1,000 units. And that just, like, my mind just blew. Well, you know, coincidentally, as life would have it, he and I are both in the bathroom at the same time, at the urinal at the same time, and I'm thinking, this guy pees the same way I do. You know, I'm just straightforward. I'm thinking, you know, and he's certainly shorter than I am, so why can't I do 1,000 units a year? You know, but my point is, I think sometimes when you get around success, that success leaves clues. So if you want to be more successful, you want to take it to the next level, then you get yourself around what you're talking about. Don't be the top dog around the table.
Yeah.
You know,
Some people talk about putting their pants on the same way. Monty's about peeing the same way.
Yeah,
Totally
he's like,
fine.
man, we all pee the same way. Oh, yeah.
Totally fine. But
I came with a new confidence, though, and whatever it takes.
And whatever it takes, you know, it's a trigger moment for you.
I think a lot of us that start out and or at one level, we look at those people and go, that could never be me. That's for them, not me, you know? And I did that for years. I mean, I could still tell you the story of me in the back of the room and looking up just in complete awe. And now to think that I'm in the front of the room. Yeah. And it's just, all it is one step in front of the other, but staying consistent, staying true to who you are, always trying to level up tomorrow. You don't have to be extreme. And here's the deal. The definition of success for each one of us is different. So being the top producer doesn't mean that they have more success than you, right? It just depends on your definition of total success.
Success doesn't necessarily mean money.
No, so, right. And find what brings you, you know, the best, you know, the best. No, I'm blessed to have that because I can do so much more with it.
Right. Money gives you options is the point of the money.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
To be able to abound to every good work. I know that will resonate with you. That's what prosperity is to be able to abound to every good work. What that means, obviously, is that if you run into a situation where you think, man, that's a really great ministry, or that's really a great cause, like for instance, this is maybe not a great example, but right now we're having our ROG Dog one-day effort that where we've given our agents a reason to contact their circle of influence to say, hey, we're having a special effort to help the rescue, not rescue mission, but the dog rescue, what do they call it, the pound. But anyway, I I'm sorry.
But I think that actually speaks to what we're talking about is the passion point. So, for example, Monty loves dogs,
pets,
loves animals.
Things, yeah.
So, what do you love?
You
ever hear the story of the girl who she went to her pastor and said, "I can't do what I don't have a ministry. I don't have anything to do." And the pastor looked at her and said, "What can you do? What can you do well?" And the pastor said, "I can make cookies." So she started making cookies, and I forget the name of them, but it actually is a really well-known cookie now that she literally would just make them, take them to nursing homes, everything. And she did what she could do. It's kind of like the story of what's in your hand. You know, God goes to Moses, says, "What?" I don't mean to make this like a preaching session, but goes to Moses, "What's in your hand?" And he's got a stick, throws down the stick, turns into a snake. What is in your hand today? What is your skill set today that makes you the person that can speak to that person? Because there's somebody who needs what you have. Period.
I love following Ryan Serhant, and he talks about I'm a real estate agent and ... What is the and piece? So you can combine the two.
What is your and?
Right. What is your and? You know, and you know, when you just are very passionate and you do what you love to do, I love creating solutions to all mortgage problems. Like bring it on. Bring it on. That fuels my bucket. I love seeing their face, all the things. Then that leads to dollars, right? That leads to, you know, financial success, all of that. But then what are you doing to kind of continue to build up this long career? Because in real estate and in mortgage, it can go high and then you can just stop and you could go way down, right? How do you keep it level and continue to grow something that is a true career that fuels all things, you know?
I think one of the key pieces of that is that you have to embrace change. If you don't embrace change, then just hang it up. Anything you do, no matter what it is, but especially in real estate, especially in this market and this world, if you're not going to embrace change, then you're just going to move on. You know?
I mean, I think we giggled because it was paper for so long, and now it's paperless, and that was a struggle of a change. It was a HUD one, and now it's a CD that needs to be signed 3 full days prior, right? To think if you weren't in that world, that was a huge deal for us. How can we do it? This is never going to be, we're never going to be successful. Having customers sign a document 3 full days prior to closing, to know that I close loans in 8 days on a regular basis with still that requirement, right? Type of thing.
Crazy.
And so you do embrace the change. Now, sometimes change is not easy, but when you do, and then you find the groove and your rhythm, you can just soar even further.
Agreed.
Speaking of change, our industry is possibly changing here with this NAR lawsuit. Have you seen much details?
A little bit, only from you, I think.
Yeah. So. Well, again, I think I want to remind everybody that you've got to focus on listings more than ever before. That's why one of the reasons I'm so proud of you, brother, for having more listings, I think, in our office than anybody at the moment, one person. But that's where the security is. You know, when I got my license 39 years ago, my broker said, just work with buyers. It's a shorter relationship. You don't have to pay for advertising. And it wasn't long before I realized, no, the real mantra is if you want to last, you have to list. And that's where the leverage is. That's where the opportunity to develop a life is, and so forth. Well, that's never been more true than where we're heading right now, I think, because there is a chance that the buyer agency part of the equation is going to be adjusted. And so I want everybody to be mindful of that. You're going to hear more and more about that. I loved what Tom Ferry said the other day on that topic. He said you have 3 choices. Choice 1, act like it's not going to happen. Just keep on blazing through it no matter what, and see how that works.
I think Blockbuster did that.
Step 2, cry and complain and go sit in the corner and suck your thumb. Or 3 is pivot to what the change is, and we're sitting right here between us is Miss Pivot right here, because I can imagine your business, Carrie Ann. You've pivoted so much. You must feel like a ballerina sometimes, just spinning. You know? I
mean, we had major change in the mortgage world so many years ago that we had to all, pivot and change with. But here's one thing that I'm doing, and I embrace you to do the same. Tomorrow will shine bright.
Yeah.
Right. So you should be planning for tomorrow. The listings will come when the market does shift. The market will, meaning the rates will shift again. So already start to tee up success for tomorrow. Where are you farming? Who are you going to go after? Now, you're not going to maybe get the listings right at the moment. You're not planning to get the listings right now. I'm not planning to get the refinances right now, but I am putting systems in place for what is to come tomorrow. Yep. And so I think if you plan 6 months out, you will be ready. If you're planning just
gold.
what you're doing today,
that's gold, guys.
We're out, right? That's not what we're doing. The CEOs of our own businesses are planning already for next quarter.
Absolutely.
You know, and do that. You know, plan to know who your connections are, so when they are going to list and when it's the right time for them, you are that agent to pick up the listing.
Too often in this industry, I see people pivoting too late. You know, things already changed. You know, and they weren't ready.
We're
for
late
it.
to the dance, right?
Yeah.
We can get a lot further when we're maybe on time or a little earlier.
Early.
What do they say? Early is late, and late is
Phillip. So before we say adios here, how do people find you again?
So you can find me, phillipbachelder.com. You can find me on Instagram, Phillip Bachelder Realtor, or YouTube, Phillip Bachelder. Well, my YouTube link is on my Instagram, but Phillip Bachelder Realtor on Facebook as well. So basically just Google Phillip Bachelder and I'll be there.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's Bachelder.
I love that. And if you need a little dose of energy, definitely follow him, because he is, you know,
I would highly recommend that you take him to lunch or something and tap his brain if you're newer on the spectrum of real estate.
I love it.
I think he would be grateful to spend invest some time in your career, because I know that you're a result of people investing their time in yours.
And here's what I do. I get so much out of people that aren't even within my own organization.
Right.
You know, when you all grow together, we need great people in different places. So even if you're not with ROG, definitely reach out for sure.
It's not about ROG, but it is about working from a place of abundance, of generosity.
Right.
Gosh, I want to go down that road too, on abundance. I tell you, but it's okay. I don't know. We don't have time, but I really, man, I'm so passionate about.
Come on, brother.
Listen,
let's talk about it.
Okay, listen. Another thing that I would tell new realtors or realtors in general, a lot of people are having to leave our industry because things got so good that we lost track of where we were trying to go. Mm-hmm. We got so wrapped up in what everybody else was doing, selling them houses. You have to stay focused on your goals too. If your goal is to save money and be a realtor for a long time, guess what? You need to save money for times like this. Yeah. And my whole plan was from the beginning, I told my wife, when this market changes, we're going to start scooping up rental properties left and right. And I'll tell you, I have my listings, yes, and I have my real estate business, but I am so much more excited because I was able to save and live from a place of abundance where I don't have to worry, can I still pay Esteban to mow my yard? No, you know, I can do the things and live the way that I'm accustomed to because I thought ahead and I was saving money. And that goes back into my childhood. And my parents, we lived in this place called Golden Ridge when I was a kid. Okay. Golden Ridge. Imagine.
A lot of gold.
Oh man, it was streets of gold. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, it was a golf course and we built this beautiful home. And then next thing I knew, we went from living there to living in a motel. Wow. So it was a very traumatic experience for me as a child to go through that financially. And I don't live out of that place anymore, but I live in a place where I have kids and I want them to never feel that emotion or any type, because number one reason people get divorced is money or problems is money. Right. So if you can eliminate the problem of, do I have savings? Do I have the money to do what I need to do to move forward? Then do it. If you don't, then maybe it's not time to go full time into real estate. Maybe it's time to keep your job, do your best to get 1 or 2 closings, continue to build a business and do it successfully and something you can be proud of instead of jumping in and then floundering and failing in front of everybody. And then you tuck your tail and go back to where you were in the beginning. Yeah. So, I mean, I have so much more to say about passion and about money and all that stuff. But anyway, that's
I'm
kind of a
grateful for Meg Sear. Back in the day, she would take 50% of everything I made, babysitting, serving, all the things. And I always thought she was stealing my money. But she was teaching me about live off of 50% of everything, and I still do that to this day, and it's a huge win, you know. And teaching Aubrey the same thing, I think that goes so much further, because there are going to be ups and downs in our business. There are going to be things that are going to cost us a lot of money and not. And if you like to do certain things, I don't like cars, but I do like these other things, you know. And you find what's a win for you that fuels you and celebrates you and all the things. But yes, saving money is, if you can, right? You change your lifestyle to be able to do that. It's a huge win.
Again, it's a choice though. It's not like it's going to just happen. Like you're not going to get to point D without just doing it. You got to say something.
We can do that in our industry. Yes. We can do that in our industry, which is a good thing. So thank you so much, Phillip, for being here. It was an honor.
You guys are amazing.
Lots of energy.
So much fun.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Can't wait to have you come back. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.